have you ever watched your favorite fan slow down to a crawl on a hot afternoon, or seen your fridge light flicker, all because of that one frustrating problem, low voltage? In our homes, this low voltage issue pops up every other day. Sometimes the inverter won't work, sometimes the TV picture goes dull and calling an electrician costs money and gives a whole other headache. But what if I told you the solution is not expensive, not complicated, and in fact, just a simple ARM 200 DIY device you can make at home? Yes, you heard that right. For the price of your monthly Netflix, you can permanently fix your low voltage problem without having to call a single electrician. Stay tuned, because today we're not just talking about the solution. I'll show you exactly how to build the entire system yourself. Before we jump in, if this sort of practical money-saving solution sounds useful to you, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now, because I bring you straightforward economic updates and problem solvers every single week. You don't want to miss the next one. Now, let me take you back to where it started for me. Just last month, our small locality on the outskirts of town was hit by a series of power drops every evening from 6 to 10 p.m. By the time dinner started, my family would be sitting in semi-darkness. My 8-year-old nephew tried to do his homework by torchlight. Our fridge stopped cooling and the milk went sour overnight. Even the washing machine, that trusted soldier, refused to start. So, what did most of the neighbors do? They complained. Some called the power company, but were told nothing could be done for weeks. Some went out and bought costly stabilizers, but those only protected single appliances and cost 5 or 6 times more than most families could easily afford for every room. I was frustrated, but a little curiosity kicked in. One rainy evening, while browsing online forums, I stumbled on a thread by a retired electrical engineer from Kerala. He posted about low-voltage hacks for village schools, cheap, effective fixes that let entire classrooms run lights even with poor voltage supply. And in that moment, my mind went from feeling powerless to feeling a little spark of hope. The method was simple: a homemade voltage booster using a basic transformer, a few wires, and fuse protection. It looked so easy, my hands were almost itching to try building it. According to the engineer, using some basic components, total cost about 200 rupees, you could create a bridge for your home circuit that raises low incoming voltages just enough to save your home appliances. The real surprise was, you don't have to be a tech wizard or even skilled at soldering. All you need is the will to try and some common sense about home safety. My plan was set. I would try this R200 DIY voltage boosting device for myself and either finally fix our evening power dips, or at least fail trying something new. First, to build the device, you need just a handful of hardware store basics. A small 12V 5A transformer, a blade fuse holder and fuse, some length of thick copper wire, and a plug top with socket. Each piece costs somewhere between 20 to 70 rupees at the local store. Nothing fancy. The main magic sits in the transformer. This transformer, commonly used for small battery charging, is repurposed to give your main supply a bit of a boost. But is it really safe? This was my next question, and maybe yours too. Would plugging in this cheap setup cause a short circuit or fry my expensive TV? I read up, double-checked circuit diagrams, and even called up a friend who's an electrician. The consensus? Wire it the right way, follow the safety directions, and you don't need to worry. The fuse acts as a first defense, snapping off if anything goes wrong. Still, I wasn't exactly fearless on the day I first plugged in my homemade device. There's something about impending doom when you're dealing with 220 volts. The sense that any slip might mean a fried fuse or worse. But I followed every step with care. Transformer wired, fuse set, plug tops checked, all ready. I started with the living room light circuit. The moment I flipped the switch, I was ready to jump back, but everything stayed on. The fan instantly started spinning faster. The tube light came up bright and stayed bright for the first time all week. The fridge compressor kicked in and hummed in that normal, healthy way. I felt like I'd pulled off a small miracle, but I was too cautious to celebrate. I kept an eye on temperature, checked the transformer for any heating, and waited. Nothing went wrong, and after an hour, everything was running cooler and more efficiently than before. My confidence soared. By the second evening, the kitchen was lit without flaring bulbs, and my nephew got to finish his maths homework under clean white light. The next day, the word began to spread among the neighbors. "Oh, try his device, it actually works." Now, I wasn't prepared to become the local tech superstar, but 3 other houses tried the same circuit, and no surprise, all got the same result. What really blew my mind was not just that it worked, but that it worked so cheaply. The local electrician, when he heard about it, checked my wiring, smiled, and admitted this sort of a hack is well known among old-school tinkerers, but few people trust themselves to try it. Most people assume anything DIY involving current must be risky or second-rate. Yet, with basic precautions, it's actually safer than running your appliances through undervoltage for months, which slowly degrades motors, fans, compressors, and even delicate gadgets over time. Still, I know what you're wondering right now. How does such a simple, low-cost device actually fix low-voltage problems? And does it have any side effects or things you should watch out for? Let's get under the hood, look closer at how it works, and what you need to be careful about if you want to try this yourself. First things first, let's answer the biggest question on your mind. How is it possible for a tiny transformer and a couple of wires to beat the low-voltage monster that makes expensive stabilizers sweat? Here's where the genius of this RS-200 hack really comes in. See, a transformer isn't just some magic box that turns low voltage into high voltage. It works with the same principle your local power grid uses, but on a tiny, controlled scale meant for your home circuit. It takes the low incoming voltage, say around 160 or 170 volts when your minimum requirement is 220, and it nudges it up by just enough, nothing more, nothing less, making sure your devices get the juice they need without overload. You wire the transformer in a way called boost configuration. That means you're not drawing more power from the grid. You're just rebalancing what's already there so that across the wires in your room, light, fan, fridge, you get closer to a standard output. In this setup, the main supply line goes into the primary coil of the transformer. The boosted output comes out from a secondary line, and the setup ensures the voltage lift is subtle and safe. If you're imagining a massive industrial box, banish that thought right now. This thing is smaller than a brick, weighs less than a basic toolbox, and doesn't heat up if you use a robust transformer. That's why schools and clinics in Indian villages, and even remote workshops in Africa, use similar hacks instead of depending on unreliable stabilizers. Now, some of you watching might be thinking, this is all fine for lights and fans, but what about big appliances like washing machines or expensive computers? Here's what I learned from the retired engineer I mentioned. These DIY boosters are ideal for small circuits like lighting, fans, and your average plug sockets. If you're hoping to run a massive air conditioner or fridge off a single booster, it's better to go with a commercial stabilizer or get a custom-built higher capacity transformer, which costs a bit more but uses the same idea. For most homes and flats, splitting the load and using a booster per major circuit is the safer bet. Once I understood this, I decided to upgrade the setup. One booster for the lighting circuit and one for fan points. Both worked without a glitch, neither ever tripped the fuse, and neither seemed to heat up even after running at peak for 5 or 6 hours straight. What made all the difference were the fuses. If you try this yourself, make sure to double up on fuse protection, one right after the plug and another on the output. These simple glass fuses cost pennies, but they're your best protection against any short circuit or accidental overload. Now, let's talk about safety, because no economic update is worth the risk of fire or shock. When using any transformer-based device, the biggest risks are overheating, short-circuiting, and loose wiring. The first step is always use good quality wires, not thin recycled stuff. The second, make sure all your connections are tight and insulated, no exposed copper. And the third, always size your fuse for slightly less than the max current capacity of your transformer. If your transformer is rated for 6 amps, use a 5 amp fuse. If everything's put together right, you've just created a safety-first, perfectly legal voltage lifter for your home. Looking back, the biggest mental block for me was thinking this might be too complicated or that I'd mess it up. But the moment I got over that and assembled the device step by step, it was like a puzzle coming together. Sure, the first time you power it on, your heart may race. That's healthy respect for electricity. But over a week of testing, in my house, my neighbor's house, even at my uncle's workshop, none of the devices flickered or failed. People started popping by to ask me how it was done and whether it would also help with voltage surges. I explained that for surges, a proper surge protector is best because this booster is for low dips rather than spikes. By the end of the week, I could count at least 8 households on our street using some version of this cheap booster device. The feedback was unanimous. Fans ran cool, bulbs stayed bright, and the endless cycle of calling the power company or suffering through half-lit evenings was finally broken. And when one of my older neighbors, notorious for being critical about every jugad, quietly asked me to build him a set, I knew the device had passed the ultimate test. Now, you might be wondering, does this device affect your power bill? After all, if it's boosting voltage, is it secretly increasing your usage? Here's the simple answer: no. Voltage boosters like this aren't creating energy out of thin air. They're just regulating what's already coming in, meaning your power usage, measured in units, stays nearly the same. In some cases, your appliances may even run more efficiently, since they're not struggling on low voltage and heating up unnecessarily. In 2 months, my family noticed not an increase, but a slight drop, because our fridge and fans worked less hard and things like tube lights weren't burning out early. What about long-term reliability? It's reasonable to think a DIY device sitting behind your plug point could break or get dangerous. But here's where common sense and routine checking come in. Every month, I do a quick look. Check if the transformer is hot, the fuses are solid, and the wires look intact. That's a 2-minute maintenance job for peace of mind. Plus, every part is available at the local repair shop for pocket change, so there's no stress about chasing down expensive spare parts. There's another reason I think this story matters, especially today. Most people, when faced with these economic problems, which are really everyday life problems, are conditioned to buy their way out. You just go out, swipe your card, and buy a new brand stabilizer. But what about when the solution is right under your nose, available with a bit of effort? It's empowering to know you can fix things yourself, even on a tight budget. It's not just about saving money, it's about learning how the world works and realizing you don't have to wait for someone else to fix your problems. Getting hands-on, understanding the simple science, and using a little bit of courage. That's what allowed me and my neighbors to solve something the power company couldn't, all for less than the cost of a family dinner at a roadside dhaba. But the best part? This solution is not limited by geography. Whether you're in a small Indian village, a bustling African city, or some remote town in America dealing with brownouts, this kind of DIY economic hacking translates globally. It's all about simple tech, practical know-how, and the desire to say, yes, I can fix this myself. Maybe you're still skeptical, and that's okay. The world is full of overpriced gadgets and quick-fix scams. But after seeing the results in my own home and the homes of people I care about, and reading stories from users as far away as the Philippines and Nigeria using the same approach, it feels good to know this isn't just a fluke. Real people, dealing with real low voltage, using basic devices built with their own hands. Economic fixes don't have to be boring, and sometimes the least expensive answer is the smartest one. But there's one more thing you need to think about before building this R200 device for yourself. Something very few people talk about, but that could mean the difference between a fix that lasts and a temporary patch-up that leaves you with another headache down the line. Let's dig into it. So here's where we get to the part that almost no one discusses. How do you make sure your DIY device stays reliable and doesn't just stop working after a few months? Remember, when you're tackling low voltage with a home-built gadget, you're not just solving a one-time problem, you're committing to a longer-term solution that needs a bit of care and understanding. I learned this when my cousin, inspired by my own setup, put together his own Ozorwanger 200 booster using an old transformer from his school project and some copper wire scraps lying around at home. At first, his setup worked just like mine. Fans spun properly, lights were sharp, and everyone thought the job was done. But barely a month later, his unit started acting up. The transformer buzzed loudly, the casing heated up way more than mine, and one fuse melted completely. What went wrong? The answer was simple but important. Quality and compatibility. Let me spell this out, because it's where most budget fixes tend to fail. Not every transformer is built for the same workload. If you pick up a random old or underpowered transformer, you're asking it to do more than it should, and sooner or later, it'll show you its limits. Copper windings inside must be thick and solid, not melted or corroded by age. Always go for a transformer matched to the peak output you need, and don't cut corners with wire thickness or fuse quality. My cousin learned that the hard way. When he replaced the cheap fuse and swapped in a heavier transformer, his setup stabilized instantly and stayed cool even through the worst voltage dips. After seeing a few of these mini failures around the neighborhood, I decided to help everyone get their basics right. We made it a routine to check connections once a month, and anytime someone noticed a new noise or excess heat, we'd troubleshoot before things escalated. Most of the time, a simple tightening of screws or a swapped-out fuse was all it took. But the main lesson? Even simple home solutions demand respect for basic quality. If you build this with the right parts, pure copper wire, a fresh, good transformer, snug connections, insulated sockets, it will outlast almost any cheap, imported automatic stabilizer you could order online. But it's not just about being careful. There's also a real sense of pride, and even a bit of fun in maintaining something you built yourself. Just think, instead of treating every inconvenience as a disaster you have to pay to fix, you start viewing problems as puzzles you're actually equipped to solve. That's the shift in mindset I saw in my family, in my neighbors, and honestly, in myself. The confidence boost is real, and the more I helped others with their setups, the more everyone started sharing little tips that made the system even better. For example, wrapping connections in extra electrical tape to avoid humidity, or elevating the homemade device on a wood block to avoid kitchen spills, or even rigging up a small fan next to the transformer if it got a bit warm on summer nights. But if the day comes when your local power becomes reliable and stable, just unplug the device. Easy as that. You've lost nothing, and your gadgets will keep running fine. No need to worry about complexity. If you can operate a basic plug or a power strip, you can manage this too. After several months, what really stood out wasn't just the saved money, but the way everyone's stress levels fell. No more daily arguments about melted fridge food, no more fights about whose charger burned out, and definitely no more sleepless, humid nights because the fan was too weak. In fact, it's funny. I started getting fewer urgent calls from neighbors as more people became experts in their own right, able to spot and fix small problems on their own. The power company didn't change a bit, but our lives sure did, and it happened on the back of a cheap, practical DIY solution. If you've been watching this far, remember, good economics at home isn't about huge government programs, shiny new gadgets, or doubling your spending at every hiccup. Sometimes it's about resourcefulness, community, and a willingness to learn something new. This R200 voltage booster might seem like a small thing, but it packs a real punch against everyday problems no one else seems interested in solving. And best of all, it's completely within your reach. No magic, just the power of doing it yourself. So now, I want to hear from you. Has your home been hit by low voltage? Have you tried any homegrown solutions, or do you have your own hacks to share? Drop your stories, your questions, and even your wildest DIY experiments in the comments below. And don't forget to share this video with anyone who's ever struggled with powerless nights. The next person you help could be a friend, a family member, or a neighbor, just waiting for the right nudge. Let's make practical economics a movement, one tiny transformer at a time. This is your boring economic update, where even the smallest ideas can change everything. See you next week, and don't forget, a little curiosity can fix a lot more than just low voltage.